Hi everybody, it's Peggy. I'm back again with another video. So, my last video I made this guy, and it's done, and it's ready to go. And I had more than one repair on it, by the way. I had to repair the corner, but then I also noticed as I was sewing it, there was a couple of spots where I got too close to the edge and came off the edge. I was super close to the edge on the front. So when I looked at the back, I had gone off the edge on the back, so I had to do a couple of other minor repairs after I was done. So anyway, I'm doing something I'm actually good at today. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so what I've got going on, let me just get the camera down for you guys. What I've got going on right now is I got this guy. It doesn't really have a direction. This is, I already made this. I just have it all stacked up and ready to go. Basically, this is a single piece of fabric. And it's done to look like patchwork, okay? And this is how you buy it, like this, okay? Now I've already taken this and I've added strips along the outside, which I trimmed to 1 1/4 inches. So just to have a border. I wanted a border on this. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it without any sort of a border. So this is going to be a taro mat, and as always, a taro mat, a placemat, a trivet, whatever. You can do this for anything that you want. I sell these in my shop, and my shop is Taro products, but you could have this for almost any purpose. Do it in a do it in a super long rectangle, and you've got a table runner, okay? These types of fabrics are a lot of fun because it looks like it's all been pieced together, and you haven't done the work. And I never pretend. You can use these for cheater quilts, right? I want a cute little patchwork in the corner of my quilt. Well, there you go, and you can just do it, right? So I decided to turn these into taro mats, and I've already done, I'm just stretching around at the back here. I've already done 3. I've already done 3, and they're nice and square. They're done properly. They're ready to go. Life is good. Everything's wonderful, and we're fine. So I just realized that I should probably do the last one on camera, because I thought people that are interested in the Quilt As You Go technique would be interested in seeing how to be a little more precise with measuring this thing. This is what the thing is. The entire purpose of this is that I'm going to be a lot more precise about getting this properly square, because when I'm doing a quilt, I do my quilts boho style, which means if something's off a little tiny bit, I don't care. It's just flavor, right? So this, on the other hand, I'm going to want this to be nice and square because I'm going to sell it. These are going into the shop, right? Unlike the other one that I screwed up because I did binding. This is binding. This is the leftover binding from the other one, where you take a strip of fabric, you fold it in half, and then you fold that in half, that in half, that in half, and then that folded area, you put your fabric in there, and you on this way, sew it all the way around. I am so out of practice on proper binding, so look for several new projects coming soon to the channel so I can get back into practice on proper binding. That was my big mistake with that. There's a couple of different ways to add binding, and there's a couple of different ways to add binding and not do it right and do it badly, which is what I ended up doing, because I'm just there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just out of practice. I'm not selling it. That one is, if you haven't seen the previous video that went up Saturday, the 11th of November, that one's got a giveaway on it. So if you haven't spotted that, the video went up on November 11th. I'm drawing 2 weeks later, so that's going to be November 25th. I'll be drawing the winner on that. So go check out that video. This video is going to be more about getting that precision, because this is something I do regularly, so I'm not going to screw this up. I just did 3 more over there, right? So we're going to be doing some precision sewing today. We're going to use the same Quilt As You Go self-binding technique. I haven't done anything with this yet, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, and I'm using 501 spray, because because I've got some. You don't need to go crazy. On the 501 spray on this piece, I spray it right on, and I try to keep it to the center. You'll see why in a couple minutes. For this one, I'm just going to lay it out like this first, because I can. Never just spray this stuff right over top of I put my glove on. I don't need my glove on. Never spray 501 spray directly over your surfaces, because it can leave a residue behind. if it's a surface that you don't mind, yeah, you can clean it off, but it's a pain in the ass. So now I'm just gonna, so take that, flip it over carefully. Come on, flip, 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 flip. And as you can see, I've got no pins. I'm not gonna use pins today because I'm using the 501 spray. I'm using the 501 spray, I don't need pins. So now I'm just checking, making sure, when you're putting something like this down, you can end up like tweaking it out of space. So I'm just going over it, making sure all my lines are nice and straight. Some people will use 501 spray and still, 501 is a temporary adhesive. And, oh, I'm sorry, 505. 505, I can't even call it the right thing. It's been a while since I've done a project that helped. You can also pin it. You can pin it. Some people put the spray and pin. Some people do just pinning. Some people do just the spray. I'm doing just the spray today. So there's that. Look what I did though. Let me put the lid back on. Look at that. Here's my old gloves and here's my new gloves. Yeah. I couldn't handle the mess anymore, so I got myself a pair of new gloves. Just in time, because for some reason my hands have been really, really dry lately. So there's been a couple times where having both gloves on would have been really helpful. Anyway, I'm going to turn the camera so you guys can enjoy the sewing. I'm using this, basically, okay, before I get started, basically what I'm going to be doing, this is really obvious. I'm going to sew along these lines because I'm going to put down a layer of stitching that will look like stitching in the ditch, and it'll separate all the squares, and it will help provide a bit of puffing. And with quilting, you have to do some sort of a stitch anyway. Once I'm done that stitch, I'm going to come along on this inside part. I'm going to go all the way around, okay? Now, when you are doing this for precision sewing, you want to make sure that the outer about inch, don't sew in, no matter what design you're doing, if you're following along with fabrics of your own, try to stay out of that outside inch, because that's going to be really important for squaring things up when I get this part done, which we're going to turn the camera and I'm going to do that part. I'm going to do the sewing right now. And you guys just get to hang out with me while I chit-chat about nothing. I got to start figuring out topics. I got to pick a topic to chit-chat about while I'm doing just the basic sewing step. Okay, so line up your thing. However you do it, line it up to make sure that you're going to get right exactly where that, as close as possible to where this and this meets. If it's not exact, it's not the end of your world. Come in. I'm starting in about 1/4 of an inch or so. Backstitch first. Come on. 2 or 3 back stitches. I find I have a little bit more control if I do 2 or 3 back stitches and then go forward, and it's a lot less. If you go forward, back, forward, you're putting 3 layers. Now I'm only putting 2 of stitching. So again, I use the 505 spray so that I can avoid doing the pins. I've got pins if I need them. If I'm doing a really, really large piece, then I'll do 505 and a few pins. I'll do both. So think of your presser foot, your foot. Think of your foot pedal as a gas pedal. Go as fast or as slow as you need to go to feel like you're getting successful. And then 2 or 3 back stitches. Cut it. I don't need that. If you hear any background noise, that is my long-suffering wife. She's in the kitchen prepping some beans so that I can make chili tomorrow. We realized we had a ton of dry beans kicking around the house, so she volunteered to get them in the whatever the heck it is, but Instant Pot. That's what it is. She volunteered to get that in the Instant Pot because she's better at using that thing than I am. I think I used it a couple times. Nah. She's in here saying I've never used it. I think I've used it a couple of times. Okay. Right up to the edge, couple back stitches, doop, doop, doop. Obviously, you want to do your back stitching exactly on the line as close as you can. If you don't get it exact, don't let it bother you. And then the last one. Smooth things out lightly. By the way, 505 spray is repositionable. If I need to reposition it, I can just peel it up and put it back on again. Try not to do that though. Once you're at the stage where you're putting it onto batting, try not to do that because it'll take up a bunch of the batting with it if you're not careful. Even if you are careful, it'll take up a bunch of the batting with it. Okay, here we go. Look at this, my hand is just sliding and nothing's even trying to move. My skin is so dry. Second glove is going on. There we go. I can definitely use moisturizer and stuff like that. My problem is that for me to use enough moisturizer to make a serious difference in how dry my hands are, I'm always concerned that I'll end up leaving like some sort of a residue on the fabric. So it's like, gloves first. I'll moisturize later, obviously, or I'll moisturize when I know I'm going to keep the gloves on or something like that. But I try not to. I should, but I try not to. That's okay. So before you flip it around, come back here. I like to trim as I go, so I'm going to get the three top stitches off, and then I'm going to come back to here. There's a lot of lint on this today because batting leaves a lot of lint behind, which is fine. That's what lint rollers are for. If you're going to do anything that uses batting, make sure you have some of those cheap lint rollers that people use for their sweaters and stuff. They are lifesavers. Okay. And again. Line it up. Line it up in whatever way makes sense for you so that your stitching is going right along that line where the two different colors meet. That's too far forward. I can back up a little bit. I don't need that much back stitching. Come on, why'd you stop? There we go. This one actually doesn't take all that long to do. It's relatively simple. It's just a matter of for me, it's just a matter of finding the time to do it. No, wait, this one's not quite to the corner. There we go. Every now and again, it's just so it goes one forward when I didn't want it to. Every now and again, it'll go one forward. Every now and again, it will not quite go to the corner. Every now and again, it just likes to make me miserable. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perfectly into every single corner. And if it does, if something's not quite where it should be, if you can just go over it a second time, just make sure you take your time and you're lining up your stuff and you're good to go. Back up. That one's done. Okay. I'm just keeping everything in the same direction. I could be flipping this around to make it easier and not be bunching it up here, but it's not big enough to be that big of a deal. And as long as I keep everything going in the same direction and coming back and trimming the thread later is going to be easier because I'll know where everything is. Anyway, yeah, I got to start thinking of topics. I got to start thinking of things to keep me to keep the babble relevant while I'm sewing. But yeah, this is pretty much almost done. Almost pretty much. Now you got two choices. I'm coming right to the edge here. Now you can cut your thread here, or you can just get underneath, trim that thread. Where's the other one? I'll trim that other one in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come off the camera here. I'm going to trim these loose threads. There it is. Because I've got to go once all the way around the outside. I'm following this interior. I'm not doing anything on the exterior here. All the way around, get that stitch in the ditch on the edge here. You can skip this part if you want, but it'll be a lot easier to work with it once you're ready to finish it. And just stay as close as possible right in that crease right there. If you think you're going to have a problem, staying exactly in the crease, this thread is almost the exact color as this fabric. If I think I'm going to have a problem staying in the crease, then I'm going to go ever so slightly onto the dark fabric because it'll be less visible all the way around. But we'll get to a close-up in a couple minutes. My lighting is weird today, and I'm not sure why. I think I've got a couple of light bulbs that are getting ready to die on me here, and they're fading before they're instead of just blowing the light out, they're just fading or something. So now I'm like, where's my lighting differences coming from? But anyway, it's a little easier to go a little faster sometimes. Okay, flip it. That's in my way. I gotta get that out of the way. There you go. Got the camera a little bit closer than usual too, but that's okay. There's a piece of thread. I'm being lazy about throwing my loose threads away because I got to come in here and clean up. Either tonight or tomorrow, I haven't decided when. I did the other 3 while Lisa was doing her video earlier today, and I thought, hey, I can show you guys how to make one of these. I'll do the last one on camera. I have no regrets. Go, that one's done. Let me just double check. If you ever lose track of where you are, so I started up here. I'm on the last side now. For some reason, it can be easy to just get going and forget where your stopping and starting point is. Especially when you're doing something this simple. Everything's already in place. You're just putting, you're putting a layer of optional stitching down. So it's like, where do I start? Where do I stop? Especially when the thread matches the background, it can be really hard to tell where all your shit went. Okay. Now let's get back over here. This is the part that's going to matter. This is the part that's going to decide whether or not I get a square cloth or whether I screw something up again. So let me flip this over. I know I've got one. There it is, right there along the edge. Make sure I only got one instead of both the threads there. Give it a light little go over. Again, ignore the lint because I do the lint rolling at the end. There's not much point at this point because there's still, while that is available and visible and whatever you want to call it. Okay. So now, how do I keep this? Okay, so I'm keeping, this is going to be the self-binding. That's going to come forward and sew down, right? So I've got to trim this without cutting that, and this is actually super easy. So you're going to bring this back here. All of this is why when I put the 505 spray, I tried to stay in the center, because I'm going to come back, fold this all the way back, leaving, so this blue, I folded it all the way back, so now the batting and the fabric is the only thing sticking forward. And sometimes fabric can shift while you're sewing it, no matter how careful you are. Sometimes it can just shift while you're sewing it. So I'm going to come back here, make sure everything's at 1 1/4 inches. Your mileage is going to vary. This is what seemed like the proper. This is what seemed like a good amount to have it back by for this particular design. Maybe next time I do one, I'll have like a 3-inch. I don't know. I don't have any more of this though, so I don't think I'll be doing. I won't be doing more unless my supplier has more. So you do have to be careful because you want to, like, if it really comes down to it, flip the whole thing backwards. Because if you do something funky and leave a piece of this up, you're going to end up cutting it and wrecking your stuff, right? So if you want to be really careful, you got straight lines. The entire outside edge has already been done. Just fold it back. Fold that forward. If it comes down to it, if you really need to be that careful, Don't finger press it because, well, I guess it won't matter. Don't finger press it though, you don't need to. So whatever system works best for you, take advantage of this 1 inch not being sewn down to anything in order to fold your under stuffs out of the way. Go all the way around. I just kind of, there we go. That's all I've been doing. I did this a whole bunch of times today. Okay, now that's done. This is done. Now I have to trim this, okay? And I've mentioned this more than once, that I'm very lucky to work with a system, I work with an amount of fabric that means I don't have to start with these at the exact sizes, and I get to trim as I go, so I really take advantage of that. But what I'm gonna do now, so this has been squared off, and I can double check it. I double checked it when I started, so I know that now that these are 1 1/4 inches, I know that this is squared off, right? So with that, this is 12 inches, which is fine. Now I want this to be 1 inch. So I'm gonna put, instead of putting it here, I'm gonna put my 1 inch line right there. And don't worry if it moves a bit, like, you know, this is higher than that sort of thing, right? Don't worry, don't get too stuck in your head about that. Oops, a little tiny bit forward. Now, this I can be, and also I like to start in the middle and go like that, because sometimes it'll help if something's bubbling or doing whatever, it'll help push it a little bit forward. I need to get another cutting mat out. This cutting mat literally has been like turned to hamburger. This is where I do 99% of, when I'm cutting at this table, 99% of my cutting happens right here, and this is all chewed up now. So I've got to either flip the mat around, which then I can't use it to measure, or I have to get I think I've got a spare mat. If you're in the Coquitlam, if you're in the Vancouver Coquitlam area, there's a store out in Coquitlam called Princess Auto. And when they carry these, they'll have hundreds of them in stock because a lot of other businesses, not just sewing, needs cutting mats, right? So this is a generic cutting mat, but a good cutting mat can be over $100. These are $20. So it's worth it to get a cutting. It's worth it to go to Princess Auto if you're in the Vancouver area. Go to Princess Auto, get your big cutting mat. They're 21 by 33 inches. They're not a full yard. They're like a mid-size. But if you do not need a big schmancy cutting mat, then this is a really good one to get, because for $20, you just use it, don't worry about it, and then get another one when you need another one. Like I said, my good mat over there is like, I don't know what it costs now. The last time I had to get one was like $125, and they're never on sale. Yeah, I gotta change that mat. I have to dig in. I have to dig in just to get there. It's a self-healing mat, but it's taken a lot of abuse. Okay, so we're good here. Two options. If you're not confident, then what you're gonna do? I have to take my gloves off for this part. If you're not confident, then you're either gonna get some pins or some clips, and you're gonna fold that in half. Right here, fold it in half, and you can iron it as you go. You're going to fold that in half. You're going to fold it again, making sure to make this is not pinned down. So you got to make sure that you're smoothing that forward, right? Put that in, fold it in half, fold it in half again, up and over. So fold it in half to the edge, then fold it in half again, up and over the edge. Give everything a nice, just smooth everything forward nicely to make sure it's going. Clip it, right? Do the same thing back here. Smooth it as you. It's kind of a hand-eye coordination exercise, but you can fold this. You can fold this in half, iron it. You can get it over on your iron. Fold it in half. You're just folding it until the top. You're folding it until the top reaches this edge, right? So you can fold it and iron as you go, so that nothing's going to shift on you, and then bring it forward. Clip it. put in more clips if that's what you want to do. And then you can do 2 sides at a time if you want. I'll leave these clips in because I can. I'm gonna get one glove back on. I have this weird glove system. 1 glove on, 2 gloves on, no gloves on. This glove off, that glove back on. Dry skin for the win. Okay. So now, what you need to do, do not start here, because then this will still unroll. This will still be able to unroll and be a mess and difficult to deal with. So you're just gonna start right up here at the edge you're gonna start here at the top, pin that down, clip it down, do whatever you're gonna do to it. Get that lined up. I like to get right close to the edge, but do whatever works for you. Don't feel obligated to follow what I'm doing. Now, if you need more of this is what 1 inch looks like. Let me get this guy up here. Let me shift the camera a bit and see if I can get some better lighting. This is what 1 inch looks like. 1 inch folds in half. Now you've got 1/2 inch, then folds over, and you've got about 1/4 inch when you're done. So let me get the exact measurement, because it should be almost 1/2 inch. Yeah, this is what a 1/2 inch binding looks like. That's what 1/2 inch looks like. You fold it to the edge, then you fold it up and over again. If you need more, then whatever amount that you cut, half of that is what's going to come to the front. So if you need more, then cut it wider. If you need less, then cut it thinner. Do whatever works for you. Okay. And then we're going to get my scissors out of the way so I don't accidentally snip my fabric. Like I said, this is not pinned down, so if you need to stop and start and do whatever you need to do. This is the easy part. And if you're concerned about coming off of this edge and ending up with an open spot, then just go in more than I try to get right along the edge, but you can go in as far as you need to go. And then go all the way to the end, and then cut your thread. And now for this, you've got a couple choices. Mitering a corner is turning it. I don't know if I can do this without getting my fat hands in the way. To miter a corner, you turn it. Okay, to do the corner, you're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to fold it up and over. To miter the corner, you're going to turn that and make an angle. Then you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to go up. You're going to go in. Now today, I am not mitering the corner. I am not mitering the corner on this one because I didn't do it on the other ones. And I should do a better video for you guys one day about mitering the corners. Okay. So you fold that in, fold it, and do exactly what you're going to do. Pin that for a minute. These are really easy to do. If you're going to iron them. But if you're not going to iron them, these are really easy to just grab and go and whatever makes sense. I like to just get it under there. As long as the needle is still up, it makes a great extra hand to hold your stuff in place for you. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. There we go. That's good enough because I'll grab that when I swing back. Okay. That's the funny thing. You put a pin in, you take the pin right back out again. So I'm going to hold this very, very carefully. And I'm going to make sure that when I get this, I'm going to go a little tiny bit forward. So I'm going to, where am I? I'm starting about halfway in because I'll backstitch first, then go forward. So I'm going to be careful. It's definitely on there. There we go. I put the needle down by hand just to get it started. If you're afraid that something is going to shift, then while you know you have a 100% good grip on it, use the hand wheel off to the side and bring your needle down till it's in the fabric. It helps hold it in place a little bit for you. Any resource that you have is a resource worth using, right? There we go. So, where was I as I was winding? Oh, my camera turned off. Silly camera. The one I did for Lisa, I used regular binding. I was somewhere in the middle of a bitch about proper binding. The one I did for Lisa, I just grabbed it and went. And I had a couple of small spots, no biggie, right? Okay, a couple of small spots. Yeah, I'm under practice. Okay, this is fine. Then I did the second one thinking, oh, okay, well, I'll do it better. The second time's always better, right? Fuck that one up. Okay, it still turned out fine, but I can't bring myself to ask people for money because it did not, yeah. So I had the problem with the corner popping out, which I fixed on camera. And then when I was done, there was like 2 spots where, because when you're doing binding, you're putting this on here, right? And that when you're doing binding, this is here, that is there. So when you're stitching in the front, if something shifts in the back, it might not be sewn down properly. I did that like in 2 spots. So I had to swing back and fix that. It's not visible. I mean, this thread is, I got lucky with this thread because this thread is basically an exact match for the fabric. It's hard to see it to begin with, so I got lucky there. But yeah. There you go, back up. Something else that happens too is that because of the way you fold all that stuff, if you start at the corner and try to go forward first, you could end up catching that bunch, that little pile of fabric that's stacked up in that corner. It's the cost of doing business. That's the way it goes, right? You could end up catching that and then pushing it forward and then having a bubbled section. Like this is only going back 2 stitches. So. Anyway. So bitching about proper binding. I know how to do it. I've done it successfully and properly before, but I'm clearly out of practice. Way out of practice. And there's a few projects. At least one of the quilts, pardon me, at least one of the quilts that I'm planning on working on, I'm going to be binding the quilt with that kind of binding. So I need to sort my shit out. I need to sort my shit out badly so that when I'm ready to do my quilt. So yeah, pot holders or whatever, but I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad and I don't need to feel bad because I mean I can get all kinds of practicing in and get a lot of fun little products to use. We need some new pot holders anyway. I guess trivets. I don't have any of the proper pot holder type reflective material on hand, like the kind of stuff you use for oven mitts, so you won't want to stick it in an oven, but still. Anyway, so I've got plenty of scrap. I can do plenty of projects and get plenty of practice in, so I don't have to feel bad when it happens. And I can do the exact same thing like I did with those half square triangles that I did a couple weeks ago, where I do the thing, and then I could, okay, say I'm practicing, right? I could do this, and I can just come along and cut that off, put another layer on, and just keep going until it's too small to work with. I do not have to waste large amounts of fabric. I just have to get large amounts of practicing in. So yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I still ended up with a really nice product. I'm not going to sell it, but it's still nice, and it's going to go to a good home. So that part's fine. Oops, shifted, saw it shift, felt it shift. You got to get it set. Basically, you got to get it set in there. I will tell you right now, if you have a helpful person in your world, most sewing machines, let's just do this. Most sewing machines, I'll put a stitch in first so I don't have to worry about it shifting it again. Okay, most sewing machines, it goes up, right? But you can push it and go a little higher. So if you have a helpful person in your world or a willing child or somebody who's there to help, you could actually have somebody, I've got a knee lift, I got lucky. If you don't have a knee lift, ask somebody, hey, can you just push this all the way up for me while I get this positioned? It's like, don't be too worried about drag other people into your drama. If the drama is making something nice that you might give them one of, they can cope. Anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna plan I have to plan a couple of projects that's gonna use proper binding so I can get back and practice on it. Because the last thing it's one thing to be doing that, and shit happens. Could you imagine if I was doing it on a Well, the one that I'm going to do the binding on, the one that I'm going to do with proper binding is going to be I think it's going to be a 60 by 80 inch. It's going to be a little big. It's going to be about a double-sized blanket size. Imagine doing this all the way around the edge of a double-sized blanket using proper binding, using this kind of binding instead of self-binding, and then finding out you fucked it up. I probably still wouldn't care, but I wouldn't be happy. Okay. So keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So just don't forget everything so far, as I come to an end has been folded in. There's no loose threads to cut. The loose threads have been sewn under, have been tucked under. Let me get this out of the way. So, follow me, follow me, follow me. So it's done. I have one. I wasn't paying attention. There it is. I have one loose thread to cut, and I'm done. So, I just thought I would. Like I said, I needed to get these done anyway, and I need to get them done anyway, and I didn't want to. I was gonna. Then finding out that I'm out of practice, I went back to the old ways, which are the best ways. So this is done. Oh, that's still sitting up there. That shouldn't have been there. Oh, because I started right. Yeah. So there's one stitch at each corner, and then I'm just gonna get my handy dandy lint rollers up there, but I'll be getting that out. Get the lint, look, that's not too bad. It's not too linty. So on the back, you have a nice little grid mark, which is just, so that way if you decide that you want to use it from the back, it still has a pretty effect. I managed to miss that one still, okay. So it has a nice little grid mark on the back, so you still get a pretty effect there, and then it's got that on the front. So now I have 4 of these done. See, 4, 4, 4, 4 for the shop. I have 4 of these done. They're going into the shop. I guess, I don't know when I'm putting them in. I've got some other stuff to go in too, so that's all fine. They've all been done the same way. But I wanted to show you guys how this does. I mean, you gotta go slow. Okay, you're working with straight lines. When you're working with really, really straight lines, you want to go slow and take your time. It's kind of a catch-22. Sometimes going slow makes it easier to do this because you're overthinking every stitch. But if you go too fast and make a mistake, by the time you notice you're way off, it's your own personal comfort level. Decide that based on your comfort level. But anyway, I'm back. I just want to show you guys how to do proper squaring off so that these quilt as you go technique, can get you superior results. And I'm doing the one quilt that I'm going to be doing. I'm also going to try. I'm definitely going to make it a point on the one quilt for sure of going over how to, because when I do the boho quilt, if it's off a little bit, I don't care, right? So I thought I would put a little bit of an effort into at least making some of it or a section of it more properly aligned so that you guys can see how that's done if you want to do it yourself. Because I realized as I was having my binding adventures over the last couple of days, I kind of realized that I talk about if it's not quite perfect, it's fine, and it's fine. It really is fine. But I've never talked about, well, what happens if you want it to look a little better, a little nicer, a little smoother. So I will be going over that, and we'll talk about that in some detail or other later. And in the meantime, I'm going to get going. I've got 4 of these to go set down somewhere so I don't lose them. And I will see you in the next one. Don't forget, like, subscribe, ring the bell. And don't forget clicking that like button or leaving a quick comment. Best way to help the channel, doesn't cost you a cent and gets me more of that attention because apparently I'm craving attention these days. It's winter. I'm not winter. It's getting close to it though. Anyway, boredom sets in. But anyway, I am done for now. I'm going to stop babbling. I'm going to go check on what the wife's up to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.